What's up, good people of the world? It's your man, the Big Heavy, and I'm
Cruising down the street in my 6'4".
I'm driving down the highway in my 21. That would be my 21 Ford F-150 Platinum Powerboost to be exact. And several of you in the comments of some of my last F-150 related videos asked, what do I think about it? And if you haven't seen those, I'll put them flying up in the ether somewhere, or I'll put them at the end of this video. And the summary is, I've never been a truck guy, never owned a truck. Prior to this vehicle, I owned a Chevy Bolt with a B electric vehicle, which is essentially the anti-pickup truck. It's kind of a super small electric vehicle, econobox type unit, and you can see in the video I'll put up there some of my rationale for moving to a pickup truck, and in particular the F-150 and the Powerboost. But I've got just shy of 3,600 miles under my belt, a little over a month of ownership, and wanted to share three things I love about the vehicle and three things that I'm a little bit meh on. Thing number one that I love about this vehicle is the technology. And love or hate Tesla and Elon Musk, but I've got to give the guy credit for kind of lighting a fire under the rear ends of most of the traditional automakers that I think had kind of fallen into a funk of not really focusing on electronics in their vehicle, putting out the same old package year after year, not really innovating. And I would probably say, having some familiarity with some of Ford's other products, the F-150 is kind of Ford's initial response and first real shot across the bow at what Tesla's done in terms of bringing technology and a pretty rich feature set down to mass market vehicles. And in the F-150, it's got everything. It's got this fantastic large screen, it's got Apple CarPlay, it's got Android Auto, so all the bells and whistles you'd expect. The stereo's fantastic. I'm not an audiophile by any means, but it certainly meets my needs in terms of quality of sound, bass, all that stuff. I can play my Spotify through my phone. So, love all that technology. And I think it extends more broadly into some of the features that they've built into the vehicle. Clearly Ford spent a lot of time figuring out how do people use trucks, what kind of things do they want. There's storage everywhere. If you've done any research on the F-150, you've seen this little work table thing, which obviously I can't open while I'm driving, but on a recent long drive, I had a conference call where I needed to be on video. I needed to have access to my laptop. My cell phone couldn't quite get a signal, but the Ford, the built-in hotspot kind of saved my bacon. I was able to connect my laptop to the Wi-Fi in the vehicle, get my connection, flip this puppy out, throw my laptop in there. By virtue of having the hybrid engine, was able to stay cool and have the AC and all that stuff running, and only having the engine kick on once or twice when I kind of need to charge things up. So just really thoughtful features, really nice layout to all the controls, the climate control, it looks nice, things are logically arranged. They just kind of clearly put the time in to figure out how are people going to use these things, how do we do add features that are useful and practical and not just kind of fluff. So absolutely love the technology and functionality of the vehicle. Second thing I love is, that kind of goes along with that, is the interior quality. This is a platinum trim. There's a variety of trims. I think things get a little bit confusing with all the different trim levels, all the options within all those trims. So spend some time kind of researching the website a little bit before you decide what you want to get. This is the second to top tier, so platinum, and then there's a limited option. But the leather, I think, is of a nice quality. The interior looks good. There's this black wood grain that I believe is real wood on the dash that just looks nice. It's got a not quite Audi A6, A8 level of quality, but things just look good. They did good material choices. Things fit together. The design flows. You just get in here and kind of feel like you're in a nice place, yet still something that's a little rugged. So they really, I think, nailed the look, at least on this platinum trim. I did sit in some of the other trim levels. I didn't sit in the limited. I couldn't find any of those around, but depending on how valuable the kind of nice interior quality is to you, if you want something that's on an Audi or Mercedes level, the platinum, I think, gets you there. Things aren't quite as finely tuned as the Germans. I think you turn a knob in an Audi or a higher end Mercedes, and it just has a nice precise click. I would say their fit and finish is 80% of the way there, but that's not outside of what I would expect, and frankly kind of exceeded my expectations in a pickup truck at this price point. Third thing I really like is the drive modes of this vehicle. And I've had drive modes in other cars. It's not anything that's amazingly new or that Ford invented by any means, but usually they were kind of dumb to the point that I never really used them. Most of my vehicles had a sport mode of some sort, and all it would do is maybe make the transmission shift a little later. In the worst case, it would kind of dumb down the accelerator in normal mode, and then when you're in sport mode, it would just kind of make the pedal give you a little more oomph for a given level of pressure, which wasn't really all that useful. The normal mode of the F-150, it drives fine and is fairly efficient. It'll get out of its own way if you mash the gas, but you notch it over to sport mode and the thing gets pretty frisky. They do some neat tricks. The dash turns red and it looks a little more aggressive, but you stomp on the go pedal, it'll more than get out of its own way. I think the exhaust sounds decent, and maybe that's coming from an electric car where I didn't have any of that exhaust note. I'm overplaying that, but it just very dramatically changes the personality of the vehicle. Similarly, I haven't tried some of the other modes, save for the off-road mode. I went off-road to get to a trail run up a pretty steep dirt road. It engaged four-wheel drive, did all sorts of mappings and stuff. It was great. And on the way down, I have the hill descent mode, which basically makes sure you're going down a hill at a reasonable speed and not slipping, and lets you kind of keep your feet off prevents your feet from having to switch between the gas and the brakes. So just some useful drive modes that actually accomplish something. But it's they're just generally pretty intelligent and helpful and useful. And I love that it almost gives the car multiple personalities, particularly when you go and want to get frisky and go into sport mode, and then maybe you're on a long road trip where you're just sort of putting in miles, and you can do something like flip over to eco mode, where it does seem to engage that hybrid drive a little. So let's talk about the things that I don't like. The first is the price. And typically in a normal market where there wasn't a supply chain shortage and there wasn't huge demand and all the other weird things that are conspiring against people with loud exhaust pipes and the population in general, you could expect to get maybe 10 to 12 grand off the soft sticker. These days, in some cases, I've heard of people having to pay over sticker, which is kind of crazy. At the end of this video, I'll put a link to a video I did on how I saved a little over 8 grand on this particular truck, and it's something that you can do as well. It's relatively straightforward. So this truck stickered at 74 grand and change. That's a lot of scratch for a truck. Again, it's nice. It's got all the technology. This one's pretty loaded up, so it's not like you're just totally not getting something for your money. But that is a lot of scratch for what's ultimately kind of a utility vehicle. That's probably the first negative. Negative number 2 is the vehicle, kind of from a holistic perspective, feels like it's about 90% baked. It could have used an extra 5 minutes in the proverbial oven. And what I mean by that is there's a few features that are missing. There's a tow control backup thing that uses a little sensor module, which it comes with if you get the tow technology package. Or it's supposed to be able to use stickers, which is what they used in the past, and which is nice if you've got a trailer you use occasionally, or you've got a multitude of trailers. When you go and set it up, it basically says, hey, the sticker feature's not in yet, we need to wait for a software download. When it came out, the zone lighting was a little janky, and they had to do a software download to fix it. The pro of that is Ford does have over-the-air update capabilities that, as I understand it, can update most systems in the vehicle, versus some of the older stuff where it can only do a limited update of features. So they have promised to fix a lot of that stuff. They have promised to do kind of the Tesla move where they'll add new features. They have done that. In one case, they had this feature called Secure Alert, where it'll send a little message to the app in your phone if somebody opens a door, opens a trunk. So, assuming they kind of hold up that end of the bargain, they can probably fix the software side of the vehicle. On the other side, there's just some little kind of goofy mechanical things. You may hear in this video, there's a little rattle that's coming from the passenger side door. I've read on the forums it's a pretty easy fix. I just haven't gotten around to it yet because I'm waiting to get some belt tape in the mail. And under the hood, there are 3 or 4 rubber bands kind of around the engine. It's not atypical to use rubber bands during the assembly process to hold something in place while you're bolting it. I'm fine with that. But I wonder how come during the next station in the assembly process, or how come during some sort of quality control, somebody didn't say, hey,
in 1.2 miles,
there's a couple of rubber bands here, maybe we should take those off. And it just kind of makes you wonder, if they left a couple or 3 rubber bands hanging around on the engine, did somebody leave, God knows what inside the transmission or something like that. So, just that little extra bit of inspection could have cleared that up. I assume they'll fix the software side. I assume there's all sorts of craziness at their plants now with the rushes and the shortages and all the nonsense that's going on, but it just feels like it's not all the way baked, which combined with the fact that it's in this case, a $74,000 sticker vehicle, I would have expected a little bit more, and I would have expected they could have gotten it to, 98% baked. Hopefully the only problems are the rubber bands, fixing that little squeak, which should be, big truck, which should be straightforward issues. And once that's out of the way, hopefully they kind of keep up their end of the bargain and do those software fixes, and then we're looking at a fully baked product. So I'm hopeful there, and nothing that I've encountered so far is something that I would consider sort of world-ending or extremely frustrating or otherwise significantly problematic. Final thing that I'm not 100% thrilled with is the transmission. Everyone's trying to do these crazy transmissions in order to achieve some higher fuel economy. In this case, we've got a 10-speed in here. It's not necessarily a Ford product. It's something they source from other suppliers, so you can't necessarily fully blame them. And it is apparently a 10-speed transmission that's used in a variety of vehicles. But for whatever reason, the software programming seems just a little bit off. There will be occasions when the transmission will shift. It'll kind of delay a shift and the engine will get bogged down a little bit, or it'll do a rough downshift when you're slowing down. Supposedly there was some updates to the transmission programming in the last software update that went out. It has seemingly gotten a little bit better, and supposedly the transmission kind of learns your shift patterns as you go, and it's either a placebo effect and I've just gotten used to it and feel like it's gotten better, or in actuality they've adjusted that programming and it has gotten better. So again, something that's hopefully a software fix, not super annoying except in kind of rare occasions. In particular, I found it frustrating when I've been on that dirt hill that I mentioned earlier. There were a few times where the engine got really bogged down and it felt like you were in a manual and someone was just not downshifting when they should have, and then it finally downshifted and you kind of got a rocket ship takeoff effect. So overall, I'm extremely happy with the vehicle. I love the utility of it, love the interior, and frankly, I shopped around a fair bit for trucks, and I was pretty excited to get it, and I'd say it not only met, but it exceeded my expectations. Aside from those little 3 challenges that I mentioned, love driving the vehicle, love being able to go off-road, being able to haul, and just being able to act like a hooligan on occasion when I want to burn some rubber, or get my sons in the back to give a little squeal of delight when we get on a highway a little aggressively or something like that. So absolutely a fan. Highly recommend the vehicle. I think I might be willing to admit that I'm a truck guy now. So hope this helped you in your purchasing process. Apologies for the chatty GPS, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
Ever wonder why every talking head on YouTube asks you to hit the like and subscribe button at the end of their video? You were right, because we're living in a computer simulation. And our benevolent robotic overlords get just a little bit of energy every time you hit that like. So do me, the rest of civilization, and our benevolent robotic overlords a favor. Mash that subscribe, be kind to each other, keep living your simulated dreams.